Years and layers of religious dogma, societal and generational conditioning, mental limitations, and low vibrational emotions pushed Stephen into a 2 year, extremely painful dark night of the soul. As he was on his healing journey, the tipping point came with a shared death experience with his wife, which completely altered his way of looking at himself and his life and guided him into the life he was meant to live.
Welcome to Awakening Soul Divinity, your sacred space for deep healing and transformation. Listen to inspiring conversations with healing experts, spiritual guides, and teachers as we explore ancient wisdom, modern healing, and powerful stories of change. I'll also share practical insights from my personal journey, from spiritual crisis to inner purpose. Whether you're seeking to overcome anxiety, embrace your true nature, or awaken your higher self, this podcast offers guidance to help you transform your life and elevate collective consciousness.
Well, welcome, Stephen. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, I think this is going to be great. And I'm really excited that you decided to join me on this journey and looking forward to hearing your story. So let's get started.
Sounds good.
All right. So can you go a little deeper into this trauma that you experienced so our audience can hear just how profound it is? Because I was like blown away by this and how your personal healing journey got you where you are now and into the work you do.
Yes. Well, my spiritual awakening started, I would say, back in 2020, 2021. And it was, like a lot of spiritual awakenings or shift in consciousness, it started with the onslaught of a lot of crises that happened in my life. And they all hit around the same time or close to the same time, which included my wife and I going through a separation and on the verge of divorce, my son going through a lot of problems and growing pains and was kind of heading down the wrong path, losing my job because of downsizing and whatnot. And I had invested a good chunk of my life savings in real estate investments, which were not going well, which were costing 2 to 3 times more than anticipated, and got involved with some people that weren't exactly honest and forthright. So all of those things where I was constantly chasing society's ideal of success and status and wealth and more. And a lot of people get into that, what I call the circle of wanting, getting, and then wanting again, and trying to fill those voids. Those they're never enough. You get a car, you're happy temporarily. It's a temporary fix. You get a car, you get a house, and you want a bigger one. You get a car, you want another one. You get a job, and you want one that pays more. It's never enough. So I got to the point where when all these things started to fall apart at one time, which is what the universe will do, to spark that awakening, to spark that shift in consciousness. Yep. That's what began my spiritual awakening, and then actually spiraled into the dark night of the soul, because unfortunately, a lot of people don't understand what's going on. And like a lot of other people, I wanted to hold on to who I thought I was, hold on to the false image of who I was. When the universe was trying to close doors, what we tend to do is put our foot in them, and we don't want them to close because we're scared to let go. There's a fear. This is who I am, or this is who I think I am, and I cannot release this. I can't let this friend go, or this job go, or this way of living go, because it's been embedded in me, and I see it now as a part of my identity, which is not truly our identity. It's a false identity. They're constructs. So I made my journey a lot worse by not knowing, by shaking it off. Okay, come on, Steve, you got to get normal. Go back to what you're doing. Blah, blah, this and that. I'm not allowing the process to unfold. And that created a lot more suffering and a lot more heartache and grief for me.
Yeah, I mean, I totally get that. I was on the same similar journey with the dark night of the soul, many of them actually. It's not generally just one dark night of the soul, but I'd like for you to go a little bit deeper, because I know what it is, but I want to hear it from you. What can you like describe for the audience what a dark night of the soul is?
Well, for me and for most people, the dark night of the soul is that intense battle between the ego self, the false identity of who you think you are, or and who you've been constructed to be through society's lens, and your connection to your soul, your true authentic self of who you really are, what you really came here to do, who you're really meant to be, your path and purpose, when there's that collision. And the dark night of the soul is that battle between the two. And we, like I said earlier, we often make it worse by holding on and not letting the process unfold naturally, trying to fight it, trying to quote unquote stay and be normal. So I had moved to Cleveland, where my investments were in Cleveland area in Ohio, and I was by myself. I had rented an apartment. I was away from, like I said, my wife and I were separated on the verge of divorce. My son was living in Dallas. I was by myself trying to make this work. And there was this breakdown of what's going on. This doesn't feel right. This doesn't feel like who I am. There's got to be more. That sense of something's missing. The sense of this can't be the purpose of life. And I began to spiral down into a depression, into grief, into sadness, into anger, into everything. And the more I tried to quote unquote remain normal, the worse it got. And I couldn't understand why, because all these things used to work. They used to make me happy. They used to fulfill me, but now they're not. So what's going on? So it got to the point where I wouldn't say that I was suicidal, but it was the point where I didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to be here. You know what I mean? I didn't know what to do. So I just did not want to go through this and endure this anymore. So I didn't know who to turn to. I tried to talk to a couple of family members. They couldn't relate. They couldn't understand. So what did I end up doing? Eventually, I ended up going back to quote unquote my roots, which, you know, being brought up in a Christian background, Christian tradition, the church and whatnot, and tried to go find some answers there and try to find some solace there and everything there. But what I encountered was the same type of things that never truly resonated with me in the first place. And the funny thing about it was I knew that deep down, but I had nowhere else to go. I had no knowledge of what else to do. And, you know, I was told just pray and just accept Jesus and just ask God to handle it. And all these things that, you know, that are told to you that don't resonate anymore, that there's a deeper meaning to it all that I was looking for that I couldn't find. So it was tough.
Can I break in real quick with that? Because I noticed that. I mean, yes, the prayer and all that works. It's just that's almost like what some people call spiritual bypassing.
Right.
So you're doing that, but you're not doing the work to get inside and heal and ground yourself and find that truth of who you are. And when you don't do that, the other doesn't necessarily, it's all mind body stuff. It all works together. So
and the problem with that is that when you're a novice and you don't have a mentor, an advisor, you don't know what you don't know. So you don't unfortunately you don't know that. And it's like, you know, it got to the point where I was totally broken down. I thought I was going crazy. I thought I was losing my mind. I didn't know. I thought maybe I was having a midlife crisis. I put all these labels on it that society says for why you're acting like this. You know what I mean? Which didn't apply, but I didn't know what else. I couldn't put a finger on it. And my spiritual awakening started with a lot of watching NDEs and a lot of searching spiritually and that internal search for the independent search for the truth and for deeper understanding and for more answers. And even then, when I was doing it, when I was with my wife told me, because we don't know what you don't know. Why are you being so morbid? Why are you sitting up watching these NDE videos for 2 or 3 hours straight? What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. So then,
can you clarify what an NDE is for those people who don't know?
Near death experiences. Near death experiences. Just trying to find more meaning about life and what
Yes.
happens and what our purpose is. There's something knocking at the door, and I don't know what it is, and
Mhm.
trying to find it. So I started to do my own investigation. And eventually, once finally I got past all that out of my own research, my own searching, through no help or advice or mentorship of anyone else,
Mhm.
that's when I started to put the pieces of the puzzle. Okay, oh, this is called a spiritual awakening. Oh, this is called the dark night of the soul. Now, once you have the knowledge of what you're going through, obviously that makes it a lot easier to understand, to deal with, and to accept once you have some clarity on that. So
Mhm.
that's,
Yeah. And
yeah.
interestingly, we had this conversation before we got on, and the universe, in its infinite wisdom,
Mhm.
decided to give you a shared near death experience so you
Right.
could see what it was for yourself. And if you want to go in, I mean, because like you're saying, it sounded like you
Yes.
were kind of resisting your spiritual calling. If you can go into what that felt like, you don't have to go
Well,
through the whole thing, but what did it
no.
feel like to get that and then take it in another direction, you know?
Yes. And this is a testament of how strong sometimes the ego, the old self, the false constructs, the programming can be. Because after I went through the spiritual awakening, dark night of the soul, I came out, emerged. Okay, I'm gonna be. I want to be a spiritual coach. I want to be an advisor or a mentor for people that are going through similar situations
Sure.
that don't know where to turn, don't know what to do, all this stuff. So I started researching quantum physics, past life regression, reading Dolores Cannon, Brian Wise, Michael Newton. I got my certificates to be a master spiritual coach. I said, this is my calling. This is what I'm supposed to do. This is the reason I went through this. So now here's the key. Real quick is what happened was once I did all that and I was told by God, okay, Steve, you've researched, you got your certificates, you've read, you've prepped. It's time to put yourself out there now. Okay. What I did was I started reverting some of those limited thoughts, low vibrational thoughts, fears, emotions started to come back. Oh my gosh, am I good enough to do this? Is it going to be too much work? What are people going to say? Are people going to accept me? All those things started to happen. So what I started to do was, unfortunately, even though I went through all that, there was that fear crept back in. There was still that fear that kept me from going all the way with it and putting myself out there. So that's what spawned my NDE. My NDE was spawned by me, my constructs, my limited thoughts, and basically me not fully stepping into my path of purpose out of fear, out
Mhm.
of worried about judgment, out of worried about validation and those things. So it was almost like God said, okay, you've been through your spiritual awakening, you've been through your dark night of the soul, but I guess that quite wasn't enough for you, Steve. So then the NDE came, which was what was needed to kind of push me over the top and really have me get over all those fears and all those things that were holding me back.
Yeah, yeah, and it's interesting that you're not the only one who goes through that. I found out a
Mhm.
couple of years ago that every single time, like we're always asking, we don't like change, but we're always asking for change. And
Right.
when we do, when we start stepping in and we start taking action and things start happening,
Right.
every single time you're about to move to the next level, right? That
Yeah.
stuff happens because our whatever
Yeah.
is still within us is going to come up for us to
Yes.
pay attention to and
Mhm.
release and
Right.
surrender and do all this stuff. And
Right.
it's almost like the universe is like, all right, well, you
Mhm.
asked for this
Yes.
and be careful what you ask for
Mhm.
because we're
Right.
now going to go put you through the next thing that needs to the things that don't serve you that get taken out. So
Right.
it's not good enough feeling like you were talking about, or,
Right.
whatever is holding you down from doing what you came to this planet to do is going
Right.
to be shown to you.
It's going to be
And
revealed. Right.
it will be revealed. And
Mhm.
then your job, our job, is to step into that, surrender into that, and allow for that stuff to get to be taken out so we can come in
Right.
more powerfully. And I've seen
Hmm.
that in my own life. It's
Oh,
like,
yes.
me 4 years ago, 2 years ago,
That's right.
I don't even talk. I don't remember
Hmm.
talking like this a couple of
Yes.
years ago. And
Right.
people, and I've done this with other people. It's like I'm looking at all these people and they know what they're talking about. And it's so interesting, and how they look so professional and they know exactly what they're doing. And I'm sitting here going, how does that work? I don't
Right.
understand that. Okay, so I asked the question and the universe answered it. And so I'll go back into the dark nights of the soul and
Yeah.
recreate and get rid of
Yes.
everything, and then come back out. And now I can talk like this. And maybe,
That's right.
not maybe, but I'm pretty sure at this point, within the next couple of months, it's going to be even more powerful. I don't
Right.
know that right now. I don't know what it's
Oh, yeah.
like.
Yeah.
But
We're,
that's
we're
the
constantly,
story.
we're constantly changing and
Yeah,
evolving. It never stops. There is no moment where you're truly, I hate using this word, but where you're truly enlightened and know it all and got it all figured out. It's a constant
that's why we're
evolution, and
here.
it's a constant step up always.
Absolutely. That's why
But
we're
but but
here.
but the main thing, which you kind of touched on earlier, is that everyone loves, and I tell this to my clients, everyone loves when the universe opens up doors and opportunities. But what you have to understand is the universe has to close doors and things
Mhm.
that are no longer service or meant for us, or and no longer are within the vibration that we're heading in. We're in a new vibration. So those things are don't serve you. They don't resonate with you anymore. There may be people you need to leave behind, jobs, even family members. But if you're not willing to allow the universe to close those doors,
Mhm.
those opportunities that are meant for you can't come until you make space by closing, allowing those doors to close. But the problem is with a lot of people, including me, we don't like when doors close a lot of times. Most of the time, we don't want to end that friendship, or that job, or let that family member go, or whatever it is that we have to do to continue to evolve and rise our frequency,
Mhm.
and to evolve spiritually. You have to be willing to do that. And that's the majority of the battle right there, I feel, or a big
Right.
part of
No,
it.
I agree
Yeah.
100%, 1,000%. Cause I
Yes.
mean, I'm smiling because that's my experience. I mean, there are
Right.
people that I really didn't want to let go of that I needed to, or else I wouldn't be where I'm at right now.
Exactly. Right. That's
And
right.
let's go back a little bit into the religious dogma piece. Now I want to kind of combine what's happening in the collective. And what's happening in the collective that I'm noticing is that with everyone I am feeling and watching, we're all going through a dark night of the soul. Even those of us who have been doing the work, we're still
Right.
feeling it because there's still stuff
Mm-hmm.
that we get to let go of, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, in that though, there's like this spiritual something going on, and it
Yes.
doesn't quite match with the things that we were taught
Right.
in our religious. Now I was raised Jewish. However, I have been baptized. My first husband was an independent Baptist, so I've been
Mm-hmm.
through, and I
Oh, yeah.
experienced, and I was so curious that I went through different religions and studied all as many as I could, find information on. And I noticed that every single religion's baseline is love. So I'm like,
Right.
what's the problem here anyway?
Right.
But
Exactly.
I'd like for you to take your experience and how difficult it was for you to not. I mean, we kind of talked about this before we got on. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go back to what you know
Right.
until it keeps poking at you. And then you're like, well, now I need to find something different. And that's why conversations like this one on
Yes.
podcasts or whatever are important, because that way people know that, okay, if that's all you know and you don't want to look at something different, that's fine. But there is something different out there that will shift you, that will help you, and it will help you within this collective dark night of the soul that's going on, because it's a combination of mind, body, and spirit
Yes.
healing and
Right.
generational healing and all of this
Yes.
stuff. So please, if you could just kind of give your thoughts on this whole thing with the collective dark night of the soul and how religion is playing into this, because it's very obvious it's playing into it.
Yes.
So,
I The great thing that I'm noticing is that a lot of people are waking up. A lot of people are having doubts, feeling confused, feeling frustrated, feeling there's more, and not knowing where to go. And I tell people, it may not feel like it, but that's a great sign, because that's the beginning of you
Yeah.
coming out and emerging, and the beginning of you breaking away from the constructs, social, mental constructs, religious dogma, limited thinking, all those things that are actually handcuffing you spiritually and keeping you from evolving and moving to the next level. Now,
Mhm.
I want to say this disclaimer for anybody. I never down or want to say what anybody's doing is wrong. That's that or judging by. That's not it. If what you're doing is working and you're feeling connected and it's working for you, by all means keep doing what's working for you.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But for the people that are on the fence, they realize there's something more. They're scared. They don't know where to go. They're confused. They don't know what else to do other than what they've been programmed to do and taught to do. Is to realize is that being quote unquote being spiritual is not following or believing someone else's experiences and accepting that as truth. It's about coming into your truth, connecting with your spirit guides, with source, with the universe, and finding your truth through that, not believing a religious document and accepting that blind faith as truth. And a lot of people have a misconception about what spirituality is, because the word spiritual and spirituality has become very trendy and very fashionable and very, woo woo and everything. But you got to understand, if you're still operating under social, mental constructs, religious dogma, those are anti-spiritual. They're anti-universe. They're filled with rules, regulations, do's and don'ts. You better do it like this or else. Spirituality, universe doesn't work like that. The universe works on, this is your experience. You experience it through your lens. You're here to learn, grow, evolve in your way. Do you have a path and purpose? Of course you do. But you also have a choice on whether to follow that and get connected with it or not. There is no right or wrong when it comes to that, because eventually, in the long run, we're all going to get it. We're all going to evolve, and we're all going to be back with source. But it's important to realize is that limited thinking, being so concrete in your beliefs and your ways, it's this way, and this is the way it is, and there's no other way. That is, if you limit your mind, if you limit your thoughts, if you limit your belief, you're limiting your connection with the universe. You cannot connect with an unlimited source that's unlimited, that there's no bounds, where nothing is impossible, with the constructs of this, only this is possible, and only this is truth, and this is the only thing I believe. You can't grow keeping yourself confined in that box. And one of the problems that I find with religion is a lot of religion. There's a lot of good, and there's a lot of spiritual concepts in a lot of religions that I believe there is. But we need to look at how religion is holding us back and handcuffing us. And one of the biggest ways that religion does it is by teaching people that you don't have the power to connect. You don't have any power. You need to go to this institution or this man or this facility to connect. You need to go and sit into a box and confess your sins to this man so he can go to God on your behalf. So we've been programmed to believe that we ourselves are not good enough to connect to God, source in the universe, and connect spiritually, that we need this institution, this man, and this, because we're not good enough. And a lot of the limitations that are put on us, when you put those limitations on yourself, you're right. You're going to manifest that. You're going to limit yourself from connecting. So it's about realizing that you have the power within. Nobody has a better connection to God, source, or the spirit realm than you. Some people are better connected because they're more in tune, but everybody has that capability. But as long as you hold on to those social, mental constructs, religious dogma, that's anti-universal principles, concepts, and theories, and goes against what spirituality is. So it's hard. You cannot connect to an unlimited force, an unlimited realm, with limited thinking and constructs. It's impossible. That's why I tell my clients, people, they come to me all the time, I don't understand. I'm practicing yoga. I'm meditating. I'm earthing. I'm burning candles. I'm burning incense. I'm doing sound. I'm doing all this stuff, which is great. It's great to set the attention, great for connection. but you have to deal with the constructs that you have, being judgmental, putting expectations on people, being envious, being unforgiving. When you hold on to those low vibrational thoughts, feelings, and emotions that are not in tune and align with spirituality and connection, because those are anti-universe. The universe runs on unconditional love, being grateful, joy, peace, those high vibrational things. So you have to address those things that are handcuffing you. You can't think and operate in worldly constructs, in a worldly perspective, under a worldly lens, and expect to connect spiritually. They don't align. They don't attune. They don't match.
That's right. That's right. And I want to kind of loop back around. That was beautiful description, because when you're bringing up these constructs, it's another word in my mind for constructs is programming. And when we're programmed to believe certain things. And we have these core beliefs that we believe that come from religion and come from family and come from ancestral and come from all these places that are not our beliefs, right?
Right.
And we're told this and we're trained in it, and school takes over, and then they start training us in it. Yeah. And, it's like, it's obvious. Okay, for lack of better words, I'm going to bring up the Matrix. It's like they're training us to be set in this realm to do things a certain way. And from some of the, podcasts I've been watching, it's like a control thing.
Yeah, it is.
And so what's interesting though, with what's happening right now on the planet, in the US and other countries and all these different things, it's all connected. So this dark night of the soul, I feel that the entire planet is going through is in direct correlation with these belief systems that we have, that we've been trained in by our society, our religions, our schools, our families, our everything that we've gone through the programming. And we're taught to believe that we're not good enough, and that we have to go through, an individual or go to a building or whatever. I've always said, for me, church is out in camping. For me, is like being in church to me,
right?
Because it's a connection to me. That's God, And what's so interesting about this is, as we're going through all the things that we're going through, if you could question, that's the thing. It's like if you're an on the fence person, you're probably gonna do this automatically. And if you're not, that's fine. I mean, you just keep going. The thing is, keep going. Just keep going in the direction you're going in. Eventually something's going to give or not, and you'll figure it out one way or the other. That's just how this kind of process works. Apparently that's how both Stephen and I have experienced that in a very similar fashion as we've gone through. But for what's happening right now is when you can just question and just kind of look. Like, for me, I've had experiences in my life that mirror some of the things that are going on out there, so I can recognize it like that really fast, right? And so if you watch that and you're like, wait, that doesn't fit, that doesn't seem, and I've always said, and it took me a long time to do this, rather than fighting whatever that is, and you see something and you start going, that doesn't sound right, then you just go, When you do the it opens up a doorway for you to start maybe researching or whatever, so that helps with this.
That helps. But you know what just came to me? And
tell me.
this is very important, is that I mentioned earlier about when we have that doubt that something's wrong or something doesn't feel right and something's not resonating. And I'll speak for me, and maybe you can relate to this, and maybe a lot of people out there can. When I was younger, when I was a child, teenager, whatever, and I was in the Christian church, listening to the stories, listening to some things didn't resonate with my soul, and that things didn't resonate. But here's the funny thing about a lot of the tricks and the deceptions that's used. I want people to think this is a big thing. Think about this: to keep us under that control, to keep us under the thumb, to keep us from evolving spiritually. You know what I mean? Is that when you bring up these doubts, or at least when I did, I'll speak for myself. When I used to bring up these doubts, and my uncle was a pastor, and I've got a cousin that's a pastor, and so does my wife. It's funny. I look back, I was like, wow, this is something how they do this. Whenever you brought up doubts about something, well, you know what? Hey, uncle, or hey, such and such, this doesn't seem right. This doesn't feel right. Instead of them speaking to me and going into the detail and let's talk about it, let's explore it, and let's expand, I was told, don't you doubt. You don't have any faith. What's wrong with you? God doesn't like that. You're guilted. You're guilted. Think about this. You're guilted. If you express it to the other people in the church or to your pastor, you're guilted. Oh, we got to pray for you. The devil's coming in and blah, blah, blah. God doesn't like your doubt. God doesn't like you not believing. So I was guilted into feeling what resonated with me, my soul trying to break through and tell me, no, Steve, that's not right. And what do? We get guilted. So we suppress it. Okay, something's wrong with me. What a great game they got going. Something's wrong with me. Oh, God doesn't like that. Oh, God, I don't want to disappoint God and think this. And I better just believe all this stuff and go along with all this stuff that doesn't resonate, because you've got the whole church now coming down on you and making you feel guilty about your doubt. So the whole thing is that people need permission to doubt and don't feel guilted into doubting everything that you've been told for 30, 40 years, everything that was passed down to you, and thinking that you're crazy and something's wrong with you. That's part of the programming and the plan to keep you suppressed, to keep you from growing, to keep you from evolving. If you're doubting something and something's not resonating with you, there's something that's your soul, that's your spirit trying to knock on the door and break through to you. And I had to bring that up because so many people are guilted into staying on that path. And you can't really understand and combat some of these tactics unless you recognize them for what they are. And for years, I suppressed my what resonated with me out of fear of being judged and fear of being ridiculed and being told God doesn't like that and I'm going to hell. All great ways to keep us into that box.
Yes. Yeah. And you brought up a really powerful word, and that's fear, because the only way to control is through fear. And that's why we're having such a hard time right now, I believe, is because we're all most of us, well, I go in and out. I'm at that point now where I can go in and out.
Yes.
But most of us, you just keep doom scrolling and it puts you in more and more and more and more fear. And that's not how life works. Life works based on what we focus on. And when we focus on negative stuff all the time, we're going to keep attracting and making negative and co-creating negativity and negative things happening. When we don't focus on the negative, we are creating things that work for us in that space that resonates with us, like you're talking about. And it's so important to recognize that that's trauma. That's trauma right there in and of itself. Children, especially when you start out with religious teachings in school and all that kind of stuff, children are like sponges.
Yes.
And they will absorb everything. And they don't absorb it through the hearing. They absorb it through the watching. Because when you do something as a parent or a grandparent or anyone around children, they're watching your behavior, and their response is to duplicate that behavior.
Oh, yeah.
Because they believe that that's correct.
Right.
And that kind of behavior where we're pushing fear and pushing, continuing this trauma loop that's been going on for generations at this point. You know, I am of the belief right now, and I've had connections with my ancestors where they're actually like I started breaking the ancestral trauma chains.
Right.
I started connecting with them, and now when I'm going through things, they are helping. They're like lifting me, because apparently we're also healing our generation. So what's interesting is that what they said to me is that they're helping us. They're helping us walk through, because they've been through this already. They know what's going on. And that's where the generational clearing and the generational healing, all that stuff comes in, because all of that trauma, all of the dogma, all of that stuff.
Yes.
doesn't suit our souls, like you were saying.
Right.
And we're
That's right.
here to be the powerful beings that we are, the
Right.
expansive, huge,
Yes.
powerful beings that we are. And
Exactly.
unless you start asking these questions and start, doing
Hmm.
some of these things that Stephen was mentioning as well, you're going to be pulled back and forth, and someone else is going to be controlling you all the time, and you'll have no
Exactly.
autonomy, and you won't have any way of making your own decisions because you're handing over your autonomy to somebody else, a doctor,
Exactly.
the government,
Yes.
whatever. So
Right.
that's what this is about.
The more they can break your connection, keep you believing that you need this and you need this, this is needed, make you believe that you're not good enough, and they can keep you constricted in that way. As long as you don't get in contact with who you truly are, your true and
Mhm.
authentic self, your spirit realm, your spirit team, and you don't know who you truly are, you're easily controlled. You're like that song, blowing like a candle in the wind. You're picking up all these
You're
energies.
dating us right now.
I know it. I know it. I'm 26. No, no,
Okay, me
you're
too.
picking, yeah, right. You're easily controlled. And people don't understand, why am I feeling like this? Why am I doing this? People are constantly chasing. And I speak this from experience. We're
Uh-huh.
constantly chasing because we're not grounded in who we are. So it's so easy to just blow this way and blow that way and
Mhm.
believe this and believe that until you get connected with who you truly are, release the dogma, release the constructs, release everything that's holding you. You're never going to truly come into your true power, your
Mhm.
true purpose until you do that. It's impossible. It's impossible. I mean, I spent a lot of my life looking at other people, friends, family, whoever, and trying things that work for them. And a lot of people do, oh my God, that worked for you. Let me try that. He's making this amount of money, this, and that. And you go off and you do it, and it doesn't work because it worked for them, right? And,
Yeah,
and then what do? You get jealous, you get envious, you get upset, you get downtrodden because that's not a part of your path of purpose. That's not something that was meant for you to be doing in the first place.
that's right.
And if you're not in tune and connected and know who you are, you're going to spend your whole life like a dog chasing that shiny object that's not meant for you. And you're going to stay in that suffering and stay in that misery until you realize that you have a path and purpose, and it's not to follow or imitate somebody else's. And when it doesn't work, and that's how we get low vibrate. When it doesn't work, we get mad, we get jealous, we get envious. Totally, all these things, I can go on and on with a bunch of examples, totally out of line and not in tune with universal concepts, high vibrational thoughts, feelings, and emotions that we need to get in tune with to quote unquote truly come in to our spirituality, our authentic selves, and gain true connection.
That's right. That's right. And I want to add one more thing. You brought up a word that to bring everything together.
Mm-hmm.
You said the word constriction. So when we are dealing with these things in life and in society and in the world and all these different things, because of our stress response,
Mm-hmm.
so we're going to connect with the body right now. So because of our stress response, it's natural that fear will cause us to physically constrict.
Yes.
So our
Oh yeah.
muscles and our nerves and our
Right.
body and everything just goes because we're in fear. We're going to hold on to that. And that
Right.
causes a lot of diseases and all these what's the name of that? I can't think of the name of the disease. The one where the women have more of it than men. It's the one with the nerve problems. Um,
Um, MS.
no, no,
No.
no, it's not MS. It's anyway. All right.
Okay. Hmm.
So many people are having all these uh,
Yes. Hmm.
diseases happening and all these things happening based off of the fear because the body constricts. And just as an example,
Right.
I have been personally, and I'm working through this right now, and this is why I understand this for myself,
Hmm.
is I've been protecting myself for my
Yes.
entire life from
Right.
narcissists,
Oh
from
yeah.
controlling people,
Right.
from people who were always, I'm like, I look at pictures of myself when I was little, I was very sensitive, sweet, little girl, right?
Yes.
And,
Yes.
and all these people are just yelling at it, and I'm highly sensitive anyway, and an empath.
Right.
So I
Yes.
kept getting bombarded with all this stuff. So I started to learn to protect myself, even from
Mhm.
people that I needed to be able to trust, like my
Right.
mother and my father and my grandparents, right?
Right.
Being
Yeah.
raised, I was raised by my dad and my grandparents, and it's like
Yes.
if something happened, they didn't understand me because of being I was highly sensitive, right?
Right.
And
Right.
they weren't. And so, which is not, it's not necessarily a bad thing. It's something that we're put on this planet to walk through and understand so we can,
Hmm.
live our lives
Exactly.
and
Right.
understand it. So I constricted. I'm always protecting myself. I'm doing
Hmm.
this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. And for the last 10 months, I have been working on this arm
Mm.
because I have like, and part of it happened because of an injury, and part of it is ancestral trauma, and
Mm.
part of
Right.
it is
Right.
me holding on to protection because my family
Yeah.
went through the Holocaust.
Mm.
They were protecting themselves.
Right.
Meanwhile, it
Yeah.
comes down generationally.
It
So,
comes down.
right? So
Oh
I'm
yeah.
protecting myself. I'm
Yeah.
helping them protect themselves.
Hmm.
And so I'm holding on. And,
Yeah.
and that's a constriction. That's your
That's
muscle constriction.
that's right.
Constricting, so it's
That's
not,
right.
that's why they have this mind body connection. We
Right.
all have this. It's a combo deal, whether you like it or not, people.
Right. That's right.
Right? So that's just
Yeah.
an example of why we also get to pay attention to our bodies, which most of us do not have the capacity to do that because we've been so traumatized and we're in such hypervigilance that we can't even, like, there was a time where I couldn't even feel my body, literally.
Mm. Yeah.
And I had to work through all that stuff to be able, I couldn't do what I'm doing now, touching my body. I couldn't do any
Right.
of that stuff because of that. So your body is a huge, huge part of the trauma and
Right.
the healing.
That's
So I
true.
wanted to share that because you brought that word.
Yes.
I think that's very important that
Mm.
people know that understand,
Yes.
can understand that's what's
That's good. That's right. That's good.
yeah.
Yeah, that's well said. And that's a great and a vital aspect of the connection because it's
Yeah.
all obviously it's all connected. Everything is
Yes.
connected. That's right.
100%.
Yes. Yes,
So
definitely.
wow, this has been a great conversation. So I want to ask you though, if you could offer one piece of advice to someone just starting their healing journey, what would it be?
It would be to trust their intuition.
Mm,
Trust that feeling above all else. And I said this earlier. Don't be guilted into thinking, behaving, or doing a certain way by family, friends, pastors, priests, the what's on TV, anything. Feeling like you have to go along with quote unquote the norm or try to fit in to be normal because that's another fear people have. I gotta be normal and I gotta be accepted and I gotta be
what is
validated.
normal?
What is normal? There is no normal.
I
Well,
what
put it this way.
normal is.
Put it this way. Quote unquote, what society,
Yeah,
these society norms. You know what I mean?
but there
But you
aren't
have to.
any.
There aren't any, but yet people try to fit into them, right? At the same time, right?
It's a moot
So
point. Yeah,
right. But people think they are. It's an illusion.
yeah,
People think they are.
yeah.
People think I got to act this way and I got to behave this way and I got to say this certain thing and I got to agree with them or if I don't, I'm going to be looked at as crazy and something wrong with me. It's this perception of worry about other people's perception that keeps us handcuffed. So you have to trust that feeling. You have to trust what your soul is telling you. And you have to realize that there is another way, contrary to to popular belief, contrary to what you've been told. That doubt is good. That wonder is good. That curiosity is good. That inkling that something's not right is good. That's
Mm-hmm,
the beginning of breaking out of the process.
mm-hmm,
And another important point is, like I said earlier, letting those doors close.
mm-hmm.
Letting those this fear that people have of letting those situations, events, relationships, let them close because the universe is trying to elevate you and align you with things that are now in your frequency of where you're starting
Yes.
to go. You're starting your ascension. So you have to let those things go. And I tell people, instead of mourning the loss of something, get excited of what's coming, of what you're about to gain.
Yes. I love that.
The universe is going to bring people in that resonate on your level or even higher to support where you're going. That's what happens. So
That is
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what happens.
Hello.
Exactly. One more thing that's very important. Once you get there, I tell my clients this: let's stop stepping on the universe's toes. Let the universe work in your life. And a lot of times we interfere with the universe working in our lives. And because you got to understand, everything is about energy. Everything is vibration. Everything is about feeling. Everything is about motive and intention. So what I tell people is that when you're doing something, you go off of divine inspiration. You do it to the best of your ability. I'm going to apply for that job, or apply for that loan, or I'm going to start this new business, or whatever it is. You do it to the best of your ability. You pray on it. You get in contact with your spirit guides, angels. You make sure it aligns with your path and purpose, and you do it to the best of your ability. You put your best foot forward. You plan. You prepare. You get ready for the interview. You prepare your speaking proposal. You prepare this, whatever that may be. But the key is that after you do that, you have to release expectations and insistences of the outcome. It's got to happen like this, and it's got to happen at this time. And I'm going to get 5 new clients, and I'm going to get 5. This is because when you put that energy out there, that interferes with the universe being able to work in your life. You know what I mean? You're basically telling the universe that we tend to want to keep that control. And you have to relinquish that control to the universe to be able to work. But you also have to trust that. I always say, universe, if this is in my higher and greater good, if this is meant for me, if this is within my path and purpose, open this door. If it's not, close it. That's fine. Let it close. But you have to relinquish it to the universe. And I kind of have a little analogy about planning a trip. When you plan a vacation, okay, you plan where you're going to go, you plan where you're going to stay, you book your flight, you book your excursions. When you get on the plane, you don't try to go in the cockpit and fly the plane. Right? You don't get to the hotel and have to make your bed and clean the bathroom and clean the room. That's their part. So in other words, let the universe do its part. You do your part to the best of your ability, and you relinquish it. We have a tendency of wanting to have control, because if we feel like if we don't have control, we don't have stability. There's a fear of what's going to happen. And I got to be able to control every nook and cranny of everything. So if you're trying to do that and you're putting that energy out there, how does the universe work in your life? Because the universe is not going to fight you for control. The universe is going to be like, okay, they want to do it themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you have a choice. And a lot of times for a lot of people, that's hard to do. We want to micromanage, control, and have expectations and insistence on things. You have let the universe, don't step on the universe's toes. If you want the universe to work in your life, give it the space to work in your life, and relinquish control after you've done everything within your power and put your best foot forward. Release it.
Esther and Abraham Hicks always said, go broad, which basically means, and this is a phrase that I've used for a while now, and it's out there, this or something better. That gives, instead of saying this is what I want and this is what's going to happen, and I mean you can declare it, but you can't. But demanding it and expecting, like you're talking about, it doesn't. I don't see how that works. No,
but you know what the thing is,
better opens that
exactly. There's an illusion that we think we know what's best for us, and we think we know what we need, and we think we know what's in our best interest and our highest good. That's don't.
Based on programming,
right? Exactly.
And belief systems,
the belief systems, we don't. Now, if you don't get me wrong, if you want to do it like that, you have the choice and the option and the free will to do it like that. If you want to do it, and if that works for you, that's fine. I'm never telling people you need to do it like this. You better do it like this. If you want to get in a spiritual perspective, a spiritual frame of mind, and you want the universe to work for you, there's certain things you need to apply, and there's certain things that you need to let go that allows the universe to do that. Or not. That's up to you. That's your decision.
Yes, sir. That's right. And I want to say something real quick before I ask you the last few questions. You said people will look at you like you're crazy if you aren't trying to like fit in or whatever. And the thing that popped into my head, and believe me, I was in that space. I have to make sure I want everybody to love me, and I wanted everybody to think that I'm, perfect and all these things, and I want to fit in and da da da
Right.
da.
Oh yeah.
Now
Yeah.
my thought process is, when you said that, I was like, oh, well, that's interesting. I guess I've shifted this.
Hmm.
Be looked at as crazy. Just go
Right.
ahead. Be looked at as crazy.
Exactly.
You'll
Right.
be much happier.
You will be
Because
much
that's
happier.
who you are. And it doesn't mean that
Right.
you're crazy. It just means that you're enjoying your life. You're
Right.
different than somebody else who has these expectations.
Right.
You're just allowing, and you're like,
And I tell people this, and I don't mean to sound harsh, but
yeah,
I told a client this just last week who has a lot of problems with worried about people's judgments and people's validations and people's approval. And I said, the funny thing about it is that you're worried about all these things, and I hate to say it, from a bunch of people who don't even know who they are. And not even tuned with their true selves and don't even know what they're doing. So you're worried about judgments, validations, and approval from people that are a lower level than you spiritually, that are not evolved, that are under a bunch of constructs that are anti spiritual concepts and anti what you're trying to achieve, and you're still under their thumb and under their control. And I said, does that make sense? What they think and what they say and how they react to you? Stop putting so much emphasis in that and trying to be accepted and validated by people who are themselves lost and don't know what the hell's going on and don't have a connection. I hate to say it like that,
yeah. Well,
but a lot of it is true.
and
I
that's
said,
part.
you cannot grow and evolve spiritually with those low vibrational thoughts, feelings, and
Right.
emotions. It's impossible.
Right.
So and believe me, when I first came into my spirituality, I bit my tongue a lot on a lot of things that were controversial because I was worried about avoiding an argument or what people would thought or what the hell's wrong with him. He doesn't believe this. Everybody else believes it. Everybody else is doing it. And it took the NDE and it took a lot of self-reflection and awareness to get over it. You know what I mean? And I have some thoughts that are contrary to beliefs that I would keep to myself and everything. Now I express myself. Here's what I believe. Here's why. You don't have to believe it. You don't have to accept it. And I'm not going to argue with you about it. That's why I tell don't get any arguments about it. State your case, state your beliefs, and leave. Your job is not to try to convince anybody, change anybody, or make anybody believe anything. And you definitely don't have to prove anything to anybody. Once you release those constructs and those handcuffs that society places on us, you better act like this, you better talk like this, you better believe this, or else. Get over that fear. What's the word? The fear, right? The fear of judgment. The fear of not being
false evidence appearing real. Right.
Got to get rid of it.
There's another side to this piece, though, that I just want to make sure everybody understands. It's like, yeah, people will judge you based off of their own fears, sure, right? But
or their own limited thinking, right?
Or their own limited thinking. And yes, for you to recognize that you are also doing the same thing, probably even more harshly to yourself. We judge ourselves harshly. We're doing the exact same thing that other people are doing towards us in the same way. And the reason why we recognize it so easily is because it's happening in here. Everything is like that. So whatever's going on within you, you're going to see outside of you. So look at that opportunity, look at that experience as an opportunity to recognize, like, oh, where am I being judgmental to myself? Where am I doing all of that stuff? Because until you heal that within yourself, you're going to keep attracting those people into your life anyway. Right?
That's right.
So the healing process goes with, anything works like that.
Anything works like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And what's going on out there.
And that I'm going to bring this up real quick. That brings me to people that are stuck in loops, repeating the same cycles, the same patterns. Why do I keep Why do I keep getting the same bad relationship or the same horrible job or the same situation? I don't understand, because you're not transcending. You're not learning that lesson. You're not getting that lesson. You're not transcending it. You're not changing the way you perceive it, the way you react to it. And as long as you do and don't change your perspective on it, it's destined to keep repeating itself. The universe is going to give you that same lesson that you signed up to learn or that you need for your soul evolution until you change your perspective on it. And I tell people, a lot of people tend to have these bad or negative things, what we see as bad, negative, terrible. We put these labels on things, and they tend to sweep them under the rug. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to deal with it. That was just horrible. That was just this and that. And when you do that, you do yourself a disservice because you don't get the lesson. You don't get the meaning of it. You don't learn how to, when it comes up again, how I can react, change my perspective, and deal with it differently to be able to transcend it and get out of that loop. And that's very important. And people don't understand, why do I keep going through this? Why does this keep happening? Because you're not transcending it. You're not getting the lesson. You're not getting the meaning. You're not getting what your soul desires for you to be able to conquer it and move on from it and deal with it differently and look at it in a different way.
If you do understand it and you are getting the lesson, it may come back around. But it's not going to happen the same way because you're already going to know what to do with it. You have the tools, you have the understanding. And then 9 times out of 10, it doesn't come back around, but you have the capacity now to walk through it differently because now you understand. If you are not surrendering, what Steven basically is saying, if you're not surrendering to this experience and to learn from this experience, you're going to be doomed to repeat it over and over until you do learn the experience. I think
and one more thing that's very important, and then I'll say this, is that everything that I mentioned earlier that I went through, all those quote unquote hardships or terrible things, how we perceive them, which we shouldn't even be perceiving them like that, but that's a different story.
Opportunity.
Right, exactly. When I used to look back at them, I used to get, we tend to relive those negative feelings, and we tend to relive that suffering. You know what I mean? By going through that head. Oh my God! And true example. Oh my God! I lost all my money in those investments. Oh my God! My wife and I, we're at a horrible place. Oh, I lost my job. Everything's horrible. Everything's bad. Everything this and that. I had to realize, and people need to realize, is that you're going through those situations a lot of times to break you down, to be able to build you back up. And you in those situations, it may not feel like it at the time, but they're necessary for your soul growth, your soul evolution, and for your ascension. It's serving you in a way you may not see, looking at it through a worldly lens. That's what I talked about, looking at it through a worldly perspective. If you look at these things and try to change your perspective to a more spiritual perspective, you'll get the lesson, you'll understand it, you won't see it as suffering and bad and, oh my God, I messed up, and all these low vibrational things that bring you out of alignment with source and universe and the spirit realm. So we have to change our perspective. Now I realize that those situations were essential for where I'm at now. I couldn't have got here if all those things would have worked out. I still would have been trapped in that religious dogma, social constructs, mental constructs. I still would have been trapped in that matrix way of thinking, where I wouldn't have evolved spiritually to be where I am, which is the most important thing. If I would have kept my job and I would have made all that money in my houses, and my wife and I had never went through the trials and tribulations that I needed for growth, I would still be stuck in that lifestyle of not knowing who I was, right? Of not evolving. So those things are essential for your growth and for your spiritual evolution. And we need to look at them like that.
Yes. And that actually leads me into the next question that I want to ask you. So this next question is, how do you define awakening? You kind of already did it, but specific.
Awakening is a shift in your perspective. It's a shift from the man-made social, mental, dogma way of thinking, way of perceiving this world, and awakening to a spiritual perspective and looking at it from a souled, spiritual, universal way, compared to looking at it from through a man-made lens, a man-made perspective. And that awakening process, everything has to be broken down for you to shift during that awakening to who you truly are. not to who you think you are, or who you were conditioned to believe, or what society says you are. Your role is not who you are is not your job, and not your place in the family, and not what you do. All those things are great and important in this 3D world, in this matrix. Okay, okay, got you. But it's awakening to a higher truth, a higher level of consciousness, awareness, and the shift in perspective. That's what it's all about.
Yes, yes. And that leads into the next question, and you'll see a pattern here, maybe. So what do you believe soul divinity is? Again, exactly what you just said. Go ahead.
Yeah, it's exactly what's coming into your soul divinity is connecting with your authentic self, with your higher self. That connection with your higher self, where you realize that I don't know what's best for me. I don't have it all figured out. I need the guidance to find out my true path or purpose. So I am not just so easily influenced and shaken by things, and so easily running off chasing this and that for fulfillment and to fill the voids and for happiness and for love. Once that divinity of connecting with your true essence of who you truly are, your higher self, which is looking, we're down, I'll put it this way, we're down in the valley trying to figure out which way to go. Your higher self is sitting on the mountain, and it knows which way to go, which way you should go for your higher greater good.
Yep,
getting connected with that. And like I said, getting connected with your higher self, looking at it through that perspective, looking at it through that lens, and relinquishing control. And I know what's best, and I know what I'm doing, and I know which way to go, which we really don't. And trusting and getting connected with that part of us that does know, that remembers, put it that way.
Oh, so good. You know the name of my podcast, right?
Yes. Yes.
That's why I ask those questions, because I want to know if people really understand what this, and you just hit right on it the whole time you were talking. So that was great. That's why I got so excited. So
okay, good.
How can people get in touch with you?
People get in touch with me through my website, which is Spiritual Alignment SL, my initials, Steve LaRussa, spiritualalignmentsl.com. There they can read some more about me, about my story. My social media handles are on there, and of course my email. If you want to send me a message or get in contact with me and have more questions or whatnot, that's the best way to access me.
Okay, perfect. And all of his information, his links and everything will also be in the description. You don't have to remember that.
Right.
And the last thing is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap up?
I just want to share that it's vital. I just want to give people permission to understand that, you're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with you. That doubt is a good thing. It's your soul knocking on the door, trying to get you to answer. It's coming into your own truth, not believing anybody else's truth, what anybody else says, and just understanding that there is something greater. There is a connection. There is fulfillment. There is unconditional love. And if what you're doing or what you have been doing doesn't work, give yourself permission to break away from that. Don't stay stuck in it because it's convenient and because it's safe, or because you have this fear of not knowing, because it's out there, and it's just a matter of connecting with it and getting yourself a good mentor, a good advisor, someone that understands, someone that can help guide you through it, not give you the answers, not tell you what to do, but can help you connect and come into your true power and your true essence. That's what it's about.
Nice. And I want to add just one more thing to that.
Yes.
And the piece where if you're just starting on this journey, it's like everything Steven said, and just be gentle with yourself, because you deserve that gentleness. A lot of us, most of us, could be all of us, have been through trauma.
Oh, yeah.
And somebody wasn't gentle with us, and you get to be gentle with yourself. And that is one of the most profound things that will help you walk through this healing journey, because if you beat yourself up, we already know what that does, right?
Yeah.
So just find that gentleness.
That it lowers your vibration. It brings you down, and realize all those trials, tribulations, hardships, They have a deeper meaning that you may not understand, you may
Just
not
yet,
see,
yet.
but yet. But once you start to raise your vibration and you start to connect with your higher self, you connect with source and spirit realm, those things will be revealed to you. I promise.
I can promise that too.
Yes.
So thank you for saying that, because I mean, both of us have been in the same, more than likely in a similar space thing that you in the audience has, or
Yes.
are, or might be right now, or walking through whatever that looks like. So just want to make sure that
Yes.
you get that deeply. So Stephen, thank you so much for being here. I really enjoyed this conversation. It was very, powerful and energetic,
Yes.
and I love that. I love when that happens. So and then to the rest of everybody else, thank you for being here on Awakening Soul Divinity, and we look forward to the next conversation. All right, take care.
Thank you.